What's going on, hustlers? Back at you guys with another video. Hopefully, by the time this video is out, we hit 2,000 subscribers. But yeah, I appreciate y'all for rocking with me. I appreciate all the growth and the support on the channel. We going up. We going up. This community, this channel is gonna be the biggest DLA channel on YouTube. Probably soon in the years to come, will probably be the biggest government contracting channel on YouTube. But it starts with you guys, and I'm grateful for all the support. I'm grateful for everybody who believed in me from the very beginning. Now, today's video, we're gonna be going over $100,000 solicitation breakdown. The last time I did a solicitation breakdown, it went pretty well. So yeah, I just figured I'd do another one, but this one for 100 racks. I've been looking at some that have been like a mil. We've been looking at some of those, so I might do one of those. Let me know if you guys want to see like $1 million solicitation, kind of go over everything that's required for that. But without further ado, we're gonna get into the video. So here we can see that this solicitation is issued from DLA Aviation, and as you guys know, there's different components of DLA. So there's aviation, land and maritime, troop support, distribution, and energy. So there's 5, right? And then there's subsidiaries of those 5. So you've got subsidiaries of DLA Aviation. So you've got, in this instance, you have the DLA ASC Supplier Operation, AE, and AF Division. I'm not even going to lie, I don't know what AE stands for. I know AF is Air Force Division. They're based in Strathmore Road in Richmond, Virginia, which I've been to. I've been to that place. And then here you've got the person who issued the contract's email address and then phone number. More often than not, they're always gonna have an email, but they might not always have a phone number. So just be aware of that. Here we see the date that this was issued. So this was issued fairly recently. This was issued like 3 days ago or something like that, which is kind of why I picked it. Or I think it was issued on Monday. Yeah, this was issued on Monday. Today's Saturday at the time of this recording. And then here you've got your request number. So just remember, request number and solicitation number, those are interchangeable. Then you've got purchase request number. So purchase request number and request number, those are different. Purchase request number is how the government basically store solicitations in their mind. Not to say that they don't use solicitations, but what I mean when I say how they store them in their mind is when they reach out to you, more often than not, they're going to reach out to you asking you about a purchase request number. Then it says right here, and this RFQ is a small business set aside because these boxes are a bit convoluted, a bit weird to read, but whatever box is checked, it's the information to the right of it that corresponds. So the left box is checked, so this means that this corresponds with this RFQ is a small business set aside. Whereas if the right box was checked, it would say this RFQ is not a small business set aside, right? And then you come across here, box 4, and then this tells you the rating of the solicitation. Now, one of the things that we talk about in our weekly calls in the Skool community actually is what the different ratings mean. So basically, all they mean is the level of priority, right? Like how quickly DLA needs it, and then how quickly they want you. Sorry, how much they want you to prioritize the contract. So different ratings mean different levels of priority, right? And then in wartime or times of conflict, you'll also notice different ratings as well. And then you have the delivery date, 14 days ADO. ADO means at date of order. Then you come down here to box 7, and then depending on which box is clicked, that corresponds to who's responsible for the shipping, right? So FOB destination, meaning that you're responsible for the shipping because the ownership destination corresponds to where the ownership of the material changes, right? So if it's FOB destination, that means ownership changes once it makes it to the destination, once it goes to DLA, right? If it's FOB origin, that means ownership of the material for shipping purposes changes at the origin. Your company, your cage code is the origin. That's how you read that. So super quick way to tell if the government is paying for the shipping on a solicitation is just coming straight to box 7 on the first page. Then name of consignee, C schedule, all that good stuff. That's all shipping information, which really can't be filled in at this point because you haven't bid on any. You haven't submitted a bid on this yet. This is when they want the solicitation closed, box 10. Now, very rarely does stuff ever actually get closed on time. Like probably 30% of the time. And then all this stuff is all blank, right? So I get a lot of questions as to like, okay, well, if this stuff isn't applicable, like why is it here, right? So there's a couple of different ways that you can submit solicitations. You can still like fill these boxes in by hand and then fax them in. You can still do that and let people know. So these are like your like net 30, net 20, net 10, which normally you just click and fill in the fields in dibs via the electronic quote submission, right? But you can still write this stuff out and then scan it in and fax it, right? So a lot of times I get questions that's like, oh, what are these boxes? And it's like, dude, these boxes, you don't have to worry about them because you fill them out when you fulfill your solicitation or when you bid on your solicitation in dibs, right? So like date of quotation, this is just blank because you'd be writing it. Signature of person authorized to sign the quotation. That gets checked off when you submit your bid anyways because you're either the super user, meaning you're the main owner of the dibs account, or if you have employees and they log in, then they have their information. And when I say they, I mean DLA has their information as the person that's submitting the bid, right? So then we come down here. May be a candidate for an automated award. However, automated solicitations containing first article test requirements are not candidates for an automated award, right? So 90% of, I think it's like 91% actually, of solicitations that are issued are scheduled to be automated award, meaning that the algorithm evaluates things such as your Spurs score, the price, where you're getting the material from, whether you're going to be in compliance with the packaging requirements, right? 91% of solicitations that are issued are supposed to be automated. However, when you submit your bid, more often than not, and there's certain things that get triggered when you submit your bid, which we'll talk about in our next boot camp, but we also touch on in the Skool community, which is significantly cheaper than the boot camp. But there's certain things that when you're submitting your bid in dibs, it like triggers the system to now have your bid be evaluated manually rather than automated award. And then it also mentions here how solicitations containing first article test requirements are not candidates for automated award, meaning a first article test is a prototype basically, right? So it makes sense that if something requires a prototype, they're not just going to have an algorithm evaluate it. They're going to need a person to look at it, and then you're going to have to fill out some additional paperwork with the prototype, which is kind of a pain in the ass. So I tell people that are newcomers to just avoid first article test because you're going to have to get that prototype manufactured, and then there's a whole slew of issues that could come up if they don't like the prototype, right? You could send them the prototype, and then they're just like, yeah, fuck it, we don't want that contract at all. Or you send them the prototype and they're like, well, we like 90% of it, but then go back and redo it, and then it takes extra time, and then you're delaying your payment, etc., etc. Here it tells you it is a small business set aside. Now, internet bid board system is dibs, right? Meaning there's different ways you can submit on dibs. You can submit by fax, you can submit by scanning in a document, or you can do EDI, or you can do batch quoting, right? So there's different ways. So a lot of people see this and they're like, oh, that's the only way, which really should be the only way that you're doing it, or else your competitors are going to blow you out of the water in terms of like the electronic quote submission, but you can do it other ways. And then here, Federal Acquisition Regulation 52.219-6 tells you it's a notice of a small business set aside. And then here you've got the NAICS code, right? This is the NAICS code, so this is some aircraft stuff. And then it says refer to the corresponding small business size standard. So a lot of people get on here and they're like, oh, small business, right? On YouTube or TikTok or Instagram. I can't stand those guys, bro. I'm gonna freaking take their lunch, bro. Just wait. But they're giving people such misinformation about what qualifies you for a small business. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing. It corresponds to your NAICS code. So different NAICS codes have different small business size standards. And the size standards are derived from either how much money you make or how many employees you have, right? So it's not like always a one-size-fits-all, all right? Oh, and then yeah, this talks about how the small business size standard for a concern that submits an offer but proposes to furnish an end item it did not itself manufacture, process, or produce is 500 employees if the acquisition is. So basically, if you're not a manufacturer and you have more than 500 employees, you do not qualify for this. You don't qualify for the small business standard if it's a set aside for HubZone, SDVOSB, economically disadvantaged woman-owned or woman-owned business, or sole source, or hub zone price evaluation preference. So I know that's a mouthful. That's a lot more technical stuff, but go watch my video on certifications so that stuff makes sense to you. And then this talks about the Buy American Act, meaning that like depending on the material, the material either has to be manufactured, assembled, or packaged in America, and that also varies based on NAICS code, right? And it's a percentage, so a certain percentage of the material has to be assembled, manufactured, or packaged in America. And key difference between assemble and manufacturing, right? Manufacturing means making the actual pieces, right? So like for instance, like I have my key here, right? So Mercedes-Benz manufactures the actual key, right? But the key is split into two pieces, right? So let's just say, hypothetically, there was some other company whose only job before it goes to the factory or before it comes to the customer is to put this portion of the key inside before it comes to the customer. Putting the key inside is the assembly, right? That's the assembly portion. So Mercedes-Benz manufactures this portion, and then there's also like something else that you can do. To take apart the key, right? So these are all different parts of the key, right? So let's say one part of Mercedes-Benz makes this part, one part of Mercedes-Benz makes this part, one part of Mercedes-Benz makes this part, right? So the assembly portion is who's responsible for putting all the stuff in there. You know what I mean? So just to clarify that, because a lot of people ask me that question, like, what's the difference? Well, there you go. And then origin inspection required. That means DCMA, Defense Contract Management Agency, is going to come out and conduct an inspection at your facility to make sure all your stuff is good. Now, you can find information about that on FAR 52.246-2. So DCMA, Defense Contract Management Agency, complete independent entity of DLA, not the same. So DCMA doesn't care if your contract is due in 2 weeks. They only care about making sure that you're meeting all the quality requirements. This also has an ISO requirement, or SAE, which SAE is Society of Automotive Engineers, I want to say, requirement. So those are quality assurance certifications that you need to have. So this means that you need to have some sort of quality assurance certification, and then if you don't have the certification that they're asking for, specifically like 9001 or 9003, because I think 9001 is aviation, 9003 is like land vehicles, but you could have another quality assurance certification, right? That's not applicable. Like if it's a marine or something, it's a different quality assurance certification. It says here, if the standard that applies to your company is not available on DIBS as a selection, then select other and specify what other equivalent standard applies. So you need a quality assurance certification, not the exact one that's listed here. But yeah. Fast pay does not apply to this solicitation, meaning DLA is not going to, there's no possibility of getting paid early. Due to the volatility of demands, frequent quantity change on open purchase requests, offers are highly encouraged to submit quantity ranges when quoting, meaning they want you to submit price breaks if applicable, right? So again, we talk about how quantity and price have an inverse relationship, right? So let's say these batteries, right? This is my key battery, which I'm going to have to put in my key before I get in my car to go get food after this. Let's say 1 through 9 of these batteries is $5 a pop. And then from 10 to 25 batteries, they're $4 a pop. And then from, let's say 26 to 50 batteries, let's say they're $3 a pop, right? That's a price break. So if that's applicable, they want you to submit that. This is super fucking redundant right here, where it says, if you anticipate quoting on a solicitation after the closing date, please submit a DIBS quote with a bid type of no bid and place an anticipated quote date or the reason you're not willing to quote. That's dumb. If you're not going, if it's still open, you can bid on it. And then if you're not going to bid on it, like, why would you waste your time going to click no bid? Like, that's dumb. There's a lot of redundancy. This talks about Apex accelerators, which used to be PTAC, Procurement Technical Assistance Centers, or Procurement Technical Assistance Program. That's the entity. Centers are the location. This gives you a website as to where you can go find them. They give you free training. My experience with them is a lot of PTACs suck, and a lot of them don't know a lot about DIBS. let's see. Cover telecommunications equipment or services to the government in the performance of any award resulting from this solicitation, yada, yada, yada. If you're not providing any CDI, which is controlled defense information, or telecommunications equipment, that's not applicable to you. And then this just talks about the Berry Act, the Berry Amendment, and the different clauses that you can go look up to go find them. Right? So DFARS, and you can literally just Google all of these, and then there's a website. I believe it's like dfars.gov or something like that. And it literally is just like an encyclopedia of all these that you can go look up. So that was how I learned them. Yeah. And then this little blurb right here just talks about how if you're going to do a joint venture or a partnership with another company, how you need to have certain paperwork in place if you are going to be working with any of the small businesses that fall under those categories. Then here you've got the procurement history, right? So as you could tell, I believe this one is for what? How many units is this for? Like 30-something units? Yeah, this is for 30-something units. And this last sold for a little less than 10K units, right? So if we just average these out, 10K plus 2K, right? If you just take the average, right? It's 12K. You divide that by 2 years. The average price is about like 6K. And we also can see that the price and quantity have an inverse relationship, right? Because 30 units is 2 bands, but 3 units is 10 bands. So average this out, it's about 6 bands for one in 2024. I just did some quick maths there. And because each one of these is 6 bands per unit, and the government's asking for 30 units, this is like $180,000 solicitation, right? So just to verify that you get, this is like what a higher level solicitation or a bigger ticket solicitation looks like. So here's the procurement history. I'm not going to touch too much on this. We just made a video about this in the Skool community. Go check that out. It's $19 a month. And while we're talking about it, let's talk about Lucy, my official sponsor, my first sponsor ever, and they're sponsoring this video. Lucy is the best all-in-one CRM software. You can use it to interpret procurement history. They have email addresses and phone numbers for all the approved sources that are listed. And then you're not going to have to look in contracts or in solicitations, to find out if there's a first article test or an ISO requirement or a JCP requirement. Lucy categorizes all that for you. And then Lucy even goes as far as telling you whether or not the approved source is bidding on an item. Lucy's an absolute banger. Go check them out. Link down below to go sign up for our free trial. First 25 members. Honestly, I've made a week's worth of videos since Lucy's came out. Probably is full, but maybe there's like one spot or something. And then after those first 25 members, then you still get a discount and you still get a free trial, but the price changes a little bit. So if you sign up using my link with my code, you are still going to get a discount no matter what. But I think the discount, like the cheap price is only available for the first 25 people. So yeah, this video is sponsored by Lucy. Click the link down below. Go get it. Yep. And then here, the NSN number, and then the purchase request number, a lot of redundancy, item description, structural support. Remember, guys, it's like last name, then first name when you're reading these nomenclatures. So it's a structural support. Here's the part number, and then this tells you CDI does apply. Cover defense information does apply. So to be in compliance with CDI, that goes into your NIST SP 800-171, and then your cybersecurity maturity model compliance. I'm not going to talk about that stuff in this video. I made a video explaining cybersecurity for DLA. Go watch that. I need to start putting fucking footnotes and shit. I'm going to link that video, the cybersecurity video and the certification video, to this video at the end in post-production, as they like to say, right? And then this just tells you, these are all requirements, so you're going to have to be in compliance with the packaging requirements. Higher level contract quality requirements, the ISO stuff, documentation requirements for source approval requests. So if you want to become an approved source for this material, you're going to have to submit a SAR, which we talk about how to do in the bootcamp. Inspection and acceptance at origin, meaning DCMA is going to come. Removal of government identification from non-accepted supplies, meaning if you're going to send something to DLA, they don't like it, and they send it back to you, you got to take that label off. You can't just sell it back out to the public. And then measuring and testing equipment, that probably has to do, or not probably, that has to do with sampling. And then here, this talks about the forging process and sampling method. So sampling is just another kind of prototype that could be required. And then this tells you this is also a critical application item. So they're definitely not going to just be letting shit slide. They're definitely going to be asking for traceability. Here you've got the nomenclature. So the Boeing company, that's their cage code. That's the part number, right? And then we come down here, we've got the CLIN, contract line item number, PR, purchase request, and then you've got PRLI, purchase request line item number. And then here you've got UI, which is unit of issue. Be careful with this. If it's not each, always double check what this is. It could be like PG, meaning package, and then each package is worth like 100 units or some shit like that, so be careful. Here you've got the quantity, so we know we've got 30 units each. Then you've got the NSN number again, the delivery days, ADO at date of order, so when they win the contract, or when you win the contract and DLA then makes the purchase order, you have 14 days to deliver it. There's ways to get around that, which we talk about in the Skool community, which by the way is $19 a month. You're not going to get any better value in government contracting for $19 than that. Like everybody else is charging y'all thousands and thousands of dollars for shit, but all the content I've ever created in one place is in the Skool community for literally $19 a month. Like, can't fucking beat it, bro. Quantity variance plus or minus 0%. So that talks about if you're submitting a large quantity, let's say like 10,000, you might lose like 5 or 6 of those like screws or some shit in the warehouse, right? So you tell DLA, hey, you may get minus 1% or plus 1% kind of thing. You can go all the way up to 10% with your quantity variance. That's just a way to cover your ass to make sure if you're missing some stuff in the shipment, you tell DLA up front, and then if they accept it, then there's no way that they can get mad at you if you're missing some stuff. Inspection point, acceptance point, origin, boom, there you go. This is actually crazy because that's crazy. I'm looking at the packaging data, and it looks like this is ASTM. That's crazy. So this is something that has to be manufactured and has some like really high ticket shit along with it, but they're like, yeah, commercial packaging, which is crazy. But yeah, there you go. There's your packaging data, commercial packaging, and labeling and shit, which go watch my packaging video. Like, I'm not going to sit here and yap about shit that I already have videos on the internet about, so just go watch that. And then parcel post address, this is where everything's being shipped. And then section B is over, and then all this stuff is literally just DFARS and shit that you have to be in compliance with. But if you're in the Skool community and you're following everything that we're talking about, you're going to be in compliance with all that stuff. So that is my $100,000, really $180,000 solicitation breakdown. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Not only am I looking forward to your success, I'm sure of it. Let's go get those. My dad just texted me something funny. But not only am I looking forward to your success, I am sure of it. Let's go get those dollars. Hustlers, see you.